When someone has an idea, you have the light bulb moment and you're like, wow, I have this idea. What would be your advice for someone when they have this amazing idea and they're really excited about it?
You know exactly what you want to do. The idea comes, you're so clear on this. Obviously, you want to take that big, massive action. In those moments where you struggle with implementation of your idea, you want to pause for a moment. You want to answer a couple of questions. Well, hold on. What is going on in this idea? You attract ideas for a reason, but I would say not every idea is worth doing. And I think this is where a lot of businesses go wrong because they sometimes approach too many ideas. Ideas come to you all the time. Take a piece of paper, write them down. At some point, you have to detach from the outcome, which means you've got to accept that those ideas are not going to realize. There is a distinction about an idea that is actually the how, an idea that is actually the what. Idea is there to elevate something about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Iwona Wilson of Wilson Business Consulting. She is the framing queen out of Houston, Texas. Welcome to the show, Iwona. I'm so happy to hear. Ivana, I'm sorry. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. My pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you for being here. I just wondered if you could give the audience a little bit of a taste of what it is that you do so we can celebrate this amazing business that you've created.
Well, thank you so much. I'm not a usual guest on podcasts for freedom lovers, but then saying that, I do champions full self blown expression in a corporate environment. So what I do, I mainly work with the resource industry, companies in the oil and gas, renewables, mining, large infrastructure projects. And what I do with them, I work with leadership and project teams and I help them to slow down right at the start before they want to jump into actions and execution. And I do it so they get to create what they truly want as opposed to what they think they should want.
Wow, I love that. So you're really taking a sort of a, excuse me, like a hands-on approach to, okay, removing the expectations of what it is that they think it's supposed to look like and bringing it back to what it is they really want it to look like, as opposed to, the expectations from the outside of, the direction maybe people would normally go. But where do you re actually want this to go?
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely spot on, Stephanie. So I work usually at the start of projects. I mean, you might think about the start of the idea, so projects don't really start with writing down the scope. Projects start with an idea. Something pops into your mind, and then you want to bring it to life. You want to package this into a project so then you or someone else can make it happen. And the same happens in the industry where my clients work. So that one of the biggest challenge they have is there is a lot of pressure to move into execution
Right.
because of the circumstances, because of the environment, because of execution feels like they actually look productive. So there's a lot of mistakes they made just because there is a huge pressure to show progress, get things down, move to execution. Okay,
Mhm.
and this is the space that I work in because this is the space when they begin to make mistakes that later on show up as delays, cost overruns, and even projects that actually are delivered without any value. So
Mm.
those challenges start with right at the start, how they approach ideas, how they define the ideas, how they create shared understanding, how they bring clarity and alignment between the people who want to pay for those projects and people who actually are involved in developing and then executing.
Okay, I get it. So do you think that um when someone has the idea, right? So they want to create something, whether it's regards to, the oil and gas industry or whatever. Um, but when someone has an idea, right? You have the light bulb moment and you're like, wow, I have this idea.
Yeah.
Um, what's your advice for how someone instead, because you know what happens, right? You have this great idea and then maybe you tell somebody or maybe you like share it and then you get some feedback, right? And someone says, "Oh, that's going to take forever, or that's, that's a big project, or, you really want to do that, or and they start to get like, oh, it's risky, or, ooh, they don't like my idea or whatever it is. What would be your advice for someone when they have this amazing idea and they're really excited about it? What would be the first thing you would tell them to do?
Okay, this is a brilliant question, Stephanie, because there is a process that you can use. Whether you want to bring your own idea to life, like like an executive, or sorry, like individual, the same happens in the corporate world. So let's make it more specific. I mean, I'm Polish, born and raised in Poland. I spent a couple of years in the UK and also Australia, and I remember the moment me and my husband sat down in Australia and we created a new vision for ourselves. What is it? How can we elevate our life to really create our vision? We started sort of getting into that space, getting into our own imagination, and that's sort of what happens for all of us. We might have ideas. Okay, I want to build. I want to build this amazing new house, or I want to be rich,
Hmm.
or I want to find a partner to get married. I want to lose weight. Like the same principles apply. And the number one step is to really get present with your current state. So I know a lot of us want to jump into a vision and imagination and write down the ideal state. If that feels right, write down your ideal state. But what I would normally recommend to individuals, what I did many years ago with my husband in Australia, when we were dwelling on our current state, we actually sat down and we thought about what is currently working in our life and what is not working so well. We tend to jump into executing our ideas without getting present with the current state and really identify what is the one thing that gives you pain that you can't stand anymore. I can't do this anymore this way. Get present with that because this will lead you to create something phenomenal in the future. So, step number one, get present with what's working. And that's when you bring appreciation and gratitude to your life. But at the same time, in the same area, there might be things that are not working as well as you would have liked it to.
Right. And
So get present with that. That would be the number one step
okay.
that I recommend.
Well, so you mentioned too, like with the one thing you can't stand anymore, the pain obviously could also be what's blocking, this new idea from coming to fruition, I suppose, as well, right? You've got, things going on that you don't really want to have going on. It's funny though, I do feel like a lot of people pay a lot of attention to the things that aren't working versus the things that are working, right? Tend to like sometimes focus on all of the negative things because that's what's coming up for them daily, dealing with those things. So when you talk about, getting in touch with your current state, with where you are at right now, um, do you have any kind of like, are you just writing those down? Like, are you writing down, what's working or what's not working, or is it a little bit
Yeah.
more? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is really good because we do need to have a balanced view on what's currently happening. And there's never a situation for anyone where things are just not working. We definitely have blind spots or we're not aware and not really present with some of the things that actually are working. And what's really interesting that in the same area of our life, there are things that are working and there are things that are not working. And when I say not working, it's not like they are really bad. They might be not working as well as we would have liked it to. We begin to get present with those desires that we have for some areas that we haven't thought about until we pause, we stop, and we find that moment to reflect what's actually happening in our current life. And we can do it per all areas of our life, or we can just focus on one area of our life.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely very helpful. A lot of times, I think that's one thing that we do with this work that we are both into is focus on how can we constantly be increasing our awareness of even the thoughts that are going through our minds, right? So when we have the idea or we want to do something different, but perhaps we're like even self-sabotaging a little bit with just our thoughts of like, oh, it's difficult, or, how am I going to explain this to people, or whatever it is, right? And just being aware of that as being one of the very first steps, right? Is we can't change anything until we are absolutely aware of what the, like you said, current state is. So from that point forward, once the awareness is there, and when it comes to helping the when you're the framing queen, helping someone frame their idea. I love this, framing queen. Um, Once they are sort of aware, okay, this is where I'm at right now, and then how would you take them into the next step? I don't
Okay,
want to
okay,
like
this is really
give
good.
away your
And
whole
and and you know,
process.
just really for your audience, because I know that most of you probably are not from the oil and gas or renewables industry. So let's look at the example of finding a partner to get
Sure.
married.
Yeah.
Okay, would that
I'm
be okay?
single.
You want that
So
one? Oh, okay, let's do that one. We could do it building a family home in Miami if you're in Canada. That would be another idea. But let's look at that finding a partner and get married. So what happens is um so the number one thing is it's really when you get present with your current state, but this is also when you write down your preferences.
mm-hmm.
So we're still not in a vision. We're just really writing down your preferences because what happens is the quality of your ideas will get better if you become crystal clear on what you actually want.
Uh-huh.
Right? So
Good.
you
Yeah.
stop just dating random people
Mm-hmm.
because, so when you get present with what you want and where you at, and then the second step, you actually develop a crystal clear vision for success. So that's where you get into your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you journal on questions such as, 6 months from now or 12 months from now. And some people like to put a date, some people don't. It really depends what feels right for you.
Right.
What does the ideal relationship look like? And that's when you let your imagination come and give you those ideas for what is it that I want for myself? What is it that I want in this relationship? What do I expect? What are my non-negotiables, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you're trying to go beyond that surface level, and when you describe the ideal partner, you really want to go deeper into, okay, so he needs to be 6.4 and and that race and that background. You're going into the deeper, what does he going to make me feel?
Right.
What are we doing? What are we
So
doing in
just to
that
be clear, are
relationship?
you suggesting to be very specific about things like descriptors, or more
Yeah,
about feeling, about how you feel with
it's
that
it's
person?
both. It's, by the
Yeah.
way, it's exactly how I manifested my husband.
Amazing.
I manifested my husband in 6 months because someone said to me, if you're going to be very clear and write down exactly what you want, but you go beyond question, what does success look like? You go beyond because what you want to do, Stephanie, you want to program yourself for the particular person.
Hmm.
So you've got to add some specifics so you can recognize him. If
Right.
you just say that he is kind and he's nice and he is, yada yada, that might be a little bit too generic.
Hmm.
And then you add, what does he make me feel like?
Hmm.
Literally, like, this is where you want to let your soul and your imagination to guide you in that process and write down what feels right. So I spent literally 20 minutes writing everything down, and probably I made like 6 pages.
Hmm.
And then I would repeat reading those pages for 30 days. I know there was like a very specific process
Yeah.
because what I want to do when I write this down, I want to create a belief in my system that
Hmm.
it's done,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then the last
Manifestation
step is,
101.
before I go into ideas on where I'm going to find him, the last step is in a visualization process and writing things down. You want to detach from that process. You want to say to yourself, if I won't meet him, I will be fine. So then you stop creating the repetition.
Hmm.
Okay. You put down the paper, you believe that you program already, and then you go into life and you just have a good time.
Right. You are in joyful expectation.
You are in joyful expectation. You are detached from the outcomes because you exactly know what you want, right?
Right.
So that's like the second stage is creating that vision, creating that vision state. And only then you might think about, okay, where I'm going to find him, where a person like that is going to hang out.
Right.
And then you do a little bit of conscious strategizing, but also like let yourself be you and believe that you already programmed to attract the person. And so on
So
one
lots of
hand, you want
faith.
to be a little bit mechanical, but you also bring that feminine side of
Hmm.
you where you trust, where
Right.
you detached,
Yes.
where
I
you
love
believe is
this.
done.
So we're connecting with our current state and then seeing what it is that we want to alter. So whether we want, what's working, what's not working, what we want to take along with us and what we think has to go. And then really getting very clear about what the vision is. So whether it's an idea or a new partner or whatever, we're getting really clear on exactly what we're looking for, what we're looking to achieve, perhaps, like what the end result needs to look like. So if it's a project, if it's an idea, if it's a new business, if it's a new relationship, whatever it is, we want to be very clear about what the end looks like when we have achieved that, what that
Yes.
looks like. So for me in manifesting a man, I'm gonna spend some time writing down. I feel like I've had that in my head for a long time, but I've written it down before. Um, but then I felt very much like it was sort of just like this checklist, and then I moved into more of a I want a feeling. So so I stopped thinking about, them as like a checklist, like they have to have this and they have to have that and all of that. I had a negative association with that. But I do think now that you're saying this again, I'm like, okay, I can see myself actually, because how else, like you said, how are you supposed to recognize them if you don't know what they look like, if you don't know what kind of features they have, if they, all of those
I'll give
things. So
you
I love
I'll
that.
give you an example. Okay, so in this particular example, there was a catch. And by the way, I give those examples to a bunch of engineers in the oil and gas and renewables when I teach them how to build a project.
Right.
Okay, because what is the catch? Let me go back into this scenario. So your roadmap to find a partner to have fun will look different to the roadmap for find a partner to get married.
Right. Okay.
You with me?
I think
So
probably what you're
so
going to say
so
next will
your
help me.
value, so finding a partner to get married requires a different approach and different partner because you want to get married.
Mm,
So your ultimate outcomes will be different and your drivers are different,
I see.
right?
Okay.
And the
Yes.
same applies if someone is building a family home because it was given a free land in Miami, but it lives in Canada,
Mm,
right? So building a home to move in is different than building a home to rent,
right.
than,
Yeah.
than acquiring the land to sell.
Hmm.
So it would take you, it require different approach, different thinking, different effort,
Yes.
right? Different stakeholders, different people will be involved. So in your example, your visualization need to be specific and relating to the outcomes you want to achieve because the partner you pursue is different if you want to date to have fun,
Hmm.
and it's different if you want to date to get married, because then your your future state is to create a lifestyle, right?
Hmm.
That is around building a new family and merging it with your existing family. So that might impact the choices that you're going to be making
Right. Yeah.
and the criteria that you assign for the man, right? But
Hmm.
if you're 18 and if you just want to find a partner to date,
Right.
well, you're going to pursue different options because you're in that space of constant exploration, right? And you don't want to make decisions. So you are not going to be driving relationship to execution, such as, marriage or children. So you will have different options.
Yes. That makes sense. Okay, I got it. I love that. That makes it easier too, right? It makes it a lot easier to
Yeah.
focus on, okay, what is the outcome that you want and what um who I suppose there's a little bit of that that would be, who do I need to be also in order to um attract that situation or have those things come to fruition, right? So say we are starting a new business, we have a business idea, we want to make it come to life. When we visualize that business coming to life, we are a bit changed through the process too, right? We are a bit different at that end result. So, because we now see ourselves in a different light. So I think a lot of that is about remembering that piece too of just who am I showing up as um, for that relationship or for that new business or for that idea to come to life.
Yeah, this is where you talk about something that not many people talk about.
Mm,
Okay, so this is the piece that we don't want to be present with, and that's something that I actually struggled myself. If I am someone who creates environment for teams to bring their ideas to life and then take whatever they want and then create a roadmap for this, who do I need to be so that I can create not just a safe place, but really a place when they can challenge each other's ideas. I call it like a brave space when they can throw up different thoughts and they can be fully self-expressed and
right.
they can so they don't just take for granted whatever the CEO told them to do. So
Hmm.
that's something that definitely challenged me. Who do I need to be? How do I build my own identity?
Hmm.
So not just someone who take action, but someone who actually create that space for conversations.
Yes. Well, you're the framing queen. You become the framing queen, right? That's the identity I'm sure that you've stepped into, right?
Yeah, and this is something which is like always evolving, right?
Yes, of
So
course.
you just think you got it, and you've done a couple of workshops, you work with some clients, and
Hmm.
then you go to another client and they're gonna press all of your buttons.
Yes.
And then you realize, oh, what is going on here? Like, why did I not ask that question?
Yeah.
Where did I sell out?
Right.
And did
Yeah.
not push for better clarity, for more alignment.
Hmm.
And as a business owner myself, I've been in this business for a few years, 4 years on my own. And that's where I have complete freedom to develop my own identity. But I actually did the same work for 10 years, being embedded inside the company. So I wasn't even aware about where I was selling out because
Yeah.
obviously I had to at some point conform to the culture that
Right.
the company had and was imposing on me. And individual will never win with the system that is there.
Right.
Um,
So how did you decide that this, no longer fits you and to go out on your own?
okay, that's a really good question. So
Thanks.
um, I really didn't.
No? Okay.
That's the big thing about me. I absolutely love the job I had in Australia. It was like
Mhm.
my dream job. There was nothing about it. But what happened is after I had second child and and um I began to have new dreams.
Mm.
Okay, so I had all this gratitude and appreciation to my work and at some point you get a position inside any company like everyone else. You ride on your reputation, right? So there's this moment where growing really more.
Yeah.
So I began to have new dreams, like what if I did it all by myself? What
Right.
if I bring those processes outside of this company? And what happened is I didn't really quit to start my business. I was just planting those ideas and sharing them with my husband until one day my husband said, "Hey, what if we move to the US? And what if we accept the job that I just got for a project? What if we just jump into US and spend 3 years, make loads of money, and then go back? And that would be an opportunity for you to figure out What is it that you want? How are you going to climb up the ladder? And are you going to do it on your own? Or are you going to join another company?
Mm.
So I was really gifted that opportunity where my husband came and say, what if we just come into the US for a few years?
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But when I get to the US, uh, I didn't I didn't have a work visa for 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So
You had lots of
so I
time
couldn't work
to.
for anyone else. And that's what idea started when I thought, okay, what if I do something for myself? So that was the beginning.
I love that though, because it's really interesting looking back probably to your husband even getting a new job opportunity, but you're already starting to think of a different life, right? You've already had this idea in your mind of like something different because you're outgrowing your current job at that time. So what if your husband's job was that? Was you, right? Having a new idea for a different life.
Yeah, I mean that is exactly what you said, Stephanie. Somehow we subconsciously attract
Yeah.
opportunities, events, people, circumstances.
Hmm.
And even if I look back, the first couple of years in the States were very hard for us, were very, very hard for us.
Yeah.
And when you move into a new country, a new states, and I've done it multiple times, but now I had to go with little children and with no
Yeah.
work visa. And I had to, rebrand myself, rebuild my identity. And that was just before we came to COVID.
COVID,
So
yes.
we just moved into to COVID. So there was a lot of judgment. There was a lot about judging because of the circumstances around us.
Mm,
There was a lot of comparing, what was my life before, what my life is right now.
yeah.
And until until, it took me a few years literally to recognize that
Right.
I'm in that space of no possibility.
Yeah.
And I'm creating that life of myself, the life of judgment. So
Right.
whatever I think, like our eyes are not just cameras, they were projecting my inner state and my inner judgment and criticism. And that's what it was showing up for me outside. So that was where I was not attracting clients. I was not attracting good people around me. I was
Mhm.
not attracting good events, but all you need is step into a new space of awareness.
I love that because oftentimes, we can spend decades in that state, right? You can spend decades of your life not being in touch with, how you are, what you're attracting. I do think a lot of people maybe don't agree with this statement, but we are, somewhat magnets, right? I'm sorry, I have something in my something on my eyelash driving me crazy. Can't see right. Okay, that's better. Um, but I do think we are these magnets, right? But we're also our external world, and I think I can't remember who said this perfectly, but it's your outside world, everything that's in your world right now, that is in your life. We've essentially manifested this. This is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, what we believe we are worthy of, what we at some point wanted, perhaps, or didn't want. Whatever we chose to focus the most attention on tends to come. And a lot of people don't believe that, right? They're not in this place of awareness that, man, I woke up having a crappy day and the day just got crappier and crappier and crappier, right? Like you go from one thing next. I spilled my coffee and then I had a fender bent, like it just can go on, right? But when we choose to say, okay, well, what's happening here? And to be a little bit more aware, and we can actually put the brakes on that really early. Something happens and it's like, oh, that's interesting, and then just move on from that. But it doesn't have to define our day or our lives. And I think what you did was just say, wait a minute, okay, I can see what's happening here. And a lot of people haven't got to that point yet, right? Where they haven't been able to step back from it and say, what am I really creating here? Because we're all creators. And I think that the more and more people who believe that, and that's what my job is as like in freedom culture, is to help people identify like your freedom is a choice for you. And a lot of people don't feel like they have that choice to change their life or to do something different. But you managed to see that, relatively quickly, I think, because there's a lot of people, I'm sure people too, who have done the same thing for 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, we're at that age where we can say 30, 40 years, But I think that it's an amazing thing. And when when I get to meet people like you who have had that awareness, who say, you know, I then really realized, okay, I had been attracting or doing the things. I think it's so powerful. It's a powerful moment in your life, right?
Yeah, it is. And it is I think it's what you're doing, it's amazing, Stephanie.
Thanks.
I love what you're doing. You're really talking about the freedom culture, and I think that's the ultimate feeling that we
Mhm.
are craving, knowing that we have choices,
Yeah.
knowing that we are creators.
Yes.
So I absolutely cheer for you and what you're doing with your offer, with your organization, and really the same applies to organizations.
Yeah.
Knowing that we don't have to do what we've done before,
Yeah.
knowing that even changing the conversation around projects. There's a lot of projects that the leaders telling me, oh, we had to cancel these projects because politics changed. And I
Hmm.
said, really? Well, hold on. So what you're saying is that you are expecting um, government funding for these projects for the next 20 years to make it feasible, to make money on this,
Yeah.
right? Hold on. So people avoid the truth,
Right.
and I think you and I are the people that really create the space for people to see the truth, and not just see the truth, hear the truth, and speak the truth for themselves.
Yeah. That one little question, is it true? So even with that
Yeah,
project, is it true that the project couldn't go forward because of the one circumstance?
yeah,
Right? And not even asking that question, they use that as an excuse to shut it all down,
yeah.
right? Just like that. Boom. Oh, it must be a sign. We're done.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually even deeper. So what's happening, because you talk about empowering people and activating them and really showing them they have choices.
Yeah.
And you see, the same applies to projects.
Hmm.
There's no one way to do a project.
Right.
And that's what happens. Companies rush so quickly to execution. That's where the biases gets in the way when they don't bring the voices of the people. They already pay for services, right?
Right.
They
Yeah.
already pay those people. They have the expertise. They
Yes.
have they have enormous capabilities. Why do we actually involve them in decision making? Why do we give them experiences so they can actually be part of exploring the problem and be part of the solution, not just the ones that gets things done, but
Right.
actually involve them in finding the right solution to the right problem.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too has to do with whether it's, the project head or the owner of the business or whatever, being actually open to all of the opportunities that exist, but also just calling them in, right? We have this tremendous opportunity available to us all of the time, different opportunities, but most of the time we're closed. We're not open and we are not willing to receive those opportunities because of many things, right? Fear, probably number one is, right, just the fear of like, oh, just like the risk associated, but risk is just fear in my mind, right? It's just all the same thing. And us, our own, whether it's ego or whatever it is, keeping us safe, trying to keep us protected in this comfortable state. But we all know that, taking that perceived risk or whatever it is leads to tremendous growth and opportunities and all of the good things. One of my favorite sayings is you're just one decision away from a totally different life. So what if the decision wasn't to end things? Was to say,
Yeah,
okay, that's not going to work. Let's look at what else could potentially work and access those people all around you with all of the ideas if you can't. I think there's a really cool book that's called Who, Not How. So it's not always about asking how, it's about asking who. So, and not even necessarily asking the question, but saying, okay, I don't need to know how to do this. I just need to be open to what I want. So I want to achieve this, and I'm going to be open to all of the possibilities around achieving that. So what opportunities are going to come towards me? And it's amazing how you then start to attract people, right? All
yeah,
of the people who come into your life who perhaps before, if you weren't open, you're not even recognizing that. they're just walking by, you know? And now you're open to it, so it's like, hi, as opposed to them just walking right by you,
Yeah.
as a metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I could add to this,
Yeah.
most projects fail.
Hmm.
There's many reasons why they fail, but one of the reasons they fail, or I would say they don't achieve the results, the intended results they meant to achieve. They don't actually create value at the end. And it's because the key stakeholders, the people who actually are involved in the project, they are the decision makers, or they pay for the project, they misaligned.
Yes.
So so if we could spend a little bit of time at the start by asking bold questions. What's in it for you?
Mm,
Why you're here? What
yeah.
are you trying to create? There is a difference between creating an opportunity if you're a solopreneur, but different if you have shareholders, or
Mm,
or if there is a team involved, or if there are a team of decision makers.
right.
And if we are able to create that alignment and
Hmm.
literally fell in love with the value that we want to create,
Yeah.
be crystal clear about issues and risks. We still need to be present with the issues and challenges and risk, but really fall in love with the outcomes you want. Get present with what you want to achieve at the end,
Yeah.
because this will give you access to ideas, options. It will make you present with the risk, but then it will give you present with what do you need to put in place to actually mitigate the risk. Who do you need to work with?
Right.
What conversations I need to have, right?
Yeah. I love that.
So what do I, so that when I get into execution, it's easy, it's effortless. I have control over. Then I put a different hat on.
Hmm.
The initial stage, this is the thinking stage that we tend to rush. We humans, we want to show progress. We want to look good. So we show the progress. Look how much I've done,
Yeah.
right? Look how much, look what I've done so far. We all want that praise,
Hmm.
but we suppress, we rush through that thinking stage. And
Mm,
as you know, right, is
hmm.
whatever you think, that is going to show in what you see possible.
Right.
Your thinking will impact what you believe in. Your
Hmm.
thinking will give you access to your effort and eventually your results.
Yes.
So if you cut the time on thinking,
Hmm.
you're literally gonna make the same mistakes. You're gonna, what
Right.
is the law of insanity by Einstein? Doing
Yeah.
the same thing over and
Right.
over again and expect different results.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that all of this is really powerful, and this conversation is one that I hope people hear at a time in a time when they need to hear it. Because I do think that um anything that you're trying to achieve, right, is totally possible. And it's possible because um you've had the idea, right? It wouldn't be possible if you didn't have the idea. That's how I view it. It's like it comes into your mind for a reason. And when we follow our intuition and we follow that guidance that we're getting, whatever it is that you believe, whether it's spiritual, God, or whatever it is that you believe, I think that is a gift to you and meant for you to see through.
This is interesting because we both study the law of manifestation. In my practice, there's one more thing which I truly believe, which is you're right. You attract ideas for a reason, but I would say not every project, not every idea is worth doing.
Hmm.
And I think this is where a lot of businesses go wrong because they sometimes approach too many ideas
Yeah,
at the same time, and they are not all equal.
right.
And what happens is, y- if you have a lot of ideas, if you're someone that your ideas come to you all the time, take a piece of paper, write them down.
Yep.
But you at some point you have to detach from the outcome, which means you've got to accept that those ideas they're not going to realize. That
Right.
you gotta believe that the right idea will realize, and
Hmm.
maybe that's where. that's where you've got to allow the universe to help you make decision, or God, whatever you believe in, to
Right.
know which idea is worth pursuing. Because
Hmm.
there's a lot of ideas which are bad ideas, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I love this. And I think it's important for us to clarify this for people who are listening, because I think a lot of times in my, audience, I attract people who have a lot of ideas, who have lots of
Yeah,
ideas about because we are open to them, but also because we are either, entrepreneurs or I mean, so many entrepreneurs who are like, I just can't, I don't know what to choose. So then they become like paralyzed, right?
yeah,
Because there's just too many directions that they could go. So why don't we just help this out a little bit? And so if an idea comes, and you suggest writing it down, is there a way that you would suggest them looking at it as, is this an idea I want to pursue? Or is this something that I should just,
absolutely.
sit here for now, think on, come back to it, or whatever it is?
Okay, this is perfect question. This is literally when I come in with my clients. This is what I do for myself. Because there is a distinction about an idea that is actually the how,
Mm,
an idea that is actually the what. So idea is there to elevate something about yourself. So if you're an individual,
hmm.
there is something to elevate to take you to the next level, right?
Yeah,
If you're an organization, your idea for a project, it needs to really help you as an organization. And
right,
that's where we get mixed up, and we believe that whatever comes to our mind, we have to realize.
right.
That's where we get exhausted.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing you've got to bring it into, okay, so what is my vision? Who I am? What is my vision? What do I want?
Hmm.
Because ideas are part of the why, sorry, the how.
Mm,
Okay. So get present with your vision, deepen your vision. Okay. Deepen the purpose. Why are you here? I'm here to elevate the consciousness to help people in decision making at the individual level or the group level. Okay.
right.
And then when you really get present with your ideas, you're gonna, your vision, sorry, you will have a lot of ideas coming to your head.
Hmm.
So here are the questions that I would ask myself. The number one question, write this down. What is the idea about? Just write this down, okay? Find a partner to get married, okay? Writing a book, um, um, building a house,
Right.
building a business. Okay, I want to be the business owner. I want to build a business. I want to set up a business in consulting, manifestation, whatever that is, construction, whatever that is. Then think about, where would the value come from? Okay, is this about money? Is this about my branding?
Hmm.
Is this about elevating my company? If I write a book, okay, is this about writing a $1 million book, or is this about elevating my reputation?
Hmm.
Make sure that you know what is my number one value driver, because it will impact a lot of decisions that you got to make.
Right.
Is it going to be self-published? Is it going to be published with a publisher? Okay. So your value drivers, why am I doing it? You've got to understand, why am I doing it? Okay. Do I want to write a book? And sometimes you will have two or three reasons why. Yes, it is going to be to elevate my branding. It is going to be to make $1 million. But then that $1 million, it's going to be the outcome that you want. It's going to be the measure of success. But when you write your vision, the next question is, what is the vision? And then go deeper. What are the outcomes? And don't just say, I want to make $1 million. Write down, push yourself, and write down what are the tangible outcomes and intangible outcomes.
Hmm.
Then think about, what are the different ways I can realize my idea.
Right.
And then think about, who can help me.
Hmm.
And then think about, what is the next logical step.
I love that.
So you ask yourself questions.
Hmm.
And I think the question that is close to you with your what are you trying to do always with idea is what are the different ways I can realize? Okay, what are the different, what are the different concepts or options? What are the different guys I can date?
Hmm.
If what I want is to get married, I'm going to have a different options if I just want to date.
Right.
Okay,
So
because yeah.
so I think too, when you talk about, getting really clear with your vision and what is the outcome that you want to have for something, and then when ideas come up, it's asking, is that aligned with that vision? So I'm having this idea, why is it coming up? Is this going to help me, or is it aligned with what I'm trying to achieve? Or is this something that's entirely, unrelated, right? So say I want to, well, I don't know, like open a construction business or something, right? And then so I have this idea about, oh, maybe we should make signs or whatever. Is that aligned with the kind of construction business that I want to have? Does that have anything to do with it? And assessing, why did that idea sort of come into your mind, and asking some of those questions that you just posed, right? But initially, is this aligned with what it is I'm trying to achieve? I think a lot of us get really distracted with a lot of side things, right? I used to do this all the time. To an extent, I still do this sometimes. I'll see a fun course and I'm like, "Ooh, that's interesting. I'd love to learn that." I love learning, right? But it's like, is this going to help me with what I'm currently trying to do? Because that vision for me is really strong and I know where I want to be. So now when I ask myself, okay, this thing's coming up, it's hitting me. Is this, trying to distract me from my goal? Is this here to benefit me, to allow me to move further towards my goal? Is it here to support the business I'm trying to create? Or is this just purely a distraction? I have to ask myself that. So is this just a distraction? Is this just something that, because sometimes, and I used to do this a lot, it's in it looks like something good and I'm being productive and I'm doing something, but it actually has nothing to do with what I'm trying to achieve. But it sure does make me feel good that I'm like completing something, or it's like, I'm working on a different idea and I'm having some progress, even when I'm making no progress over here. So I've over the years had to like, no, 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 this is absolutely a distraction. I'm not getting caught up in this again. It's like that
Mhm.
shiny object syndrome, right? Where you're just like, ooh, that looks fun. No, no, no. Let's bring it back. Is that going to help me on, with the project I'm working on, with the business I'm working on, in the search for this relationship? Is that guy who, looks good over here, but he really doesn't have anything that I'm actually looking for, right? So why would I, because you're essentially derailing yourself. And it is a form too of a little bit of like that ourselves just being scared to actually focus and go after the thing that we really want. Once we're clear on that, you answer the question, does this help me or not? Yes or no? Just point blank. So I do think that's one of those valuable pieces too of, right, is just making sure once we do have that vision, that's makes those decisions really easy for us when we have those things come up.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes and oftentimes you know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to do an option analysis. The idea come, you're so clear on this, and then obviously you want to take that big massive action and implement that if you've got that feeling this is the right thing to do. But what
Hmm.
happens is in those moments where you struggle
Hmm.
with implementation of your idea, the same applies to big organization when they're trying to often impose a new initiative. The
Hmm.
same thing apply. You want to pause for a moment. You want to stop. You want to answer a couple of questions. Well, hold on. What is going on in this idea? What is it I'm trying to achieve? And then
Hmm.
the second question is, what are the different ways I could realize this idea?
Hmm.
And you're really looking for what is the easiest and most effortless way, because you might have an idea. For every idea, there are different ways you can realize this.
Hmm.
Each way will have their own path.
Hmm.
Each way will have their own uncertainty and risks, as well as opportunities. And
Hmm.
each way might give you a different results.
Hmm.
So it's literally always remembering to ask yourself that question. What are the different ways I could realize it? And what you want, you literally want to spend. couple of hours, sit down, write this down. Don't drag it for days or weeks.
Hmm.
Just, it might even take you one page.
Right.
Write this down on top. This is my idea. What is it I'm trying to achieve at the end? Am I aligned or not? Let yourself just write down a few words about this. And then the key question, what are the different ways I could realize this idea? Which one is the easiest? Which
Right.
one feels right? Which
Hmm.
one would give you, the most income for me? Or is there, and then you begin to see, oh, here are some trade-offs I'm gonna have to make.
Right.
This one will give you the most money, but it's actually it required me to put more capital at the start.
Right. Or more
This
time.
one is short term, this one is long term. So
Right.
then when you begin to see, okay, well, here are the different traders. And that's where you want to tap into your intuition. Or
Hmm.
if you're a big organization, you want to understand, what are the different stakeholders thinking about these different options.
Hmm.
And but if you have more people involved in decision making, you're in a different world because you really get into the group dynamics, right?
Hmm.
And then the biases at the group level. But if you're an individual, if you make decisions individually, you can apply the same process. You sit with yourself, and
Hmm.
then you tap into your imagination, people that you trust. But you can also go out and seek mentors, ask questions,
Hmm.
ask questions people who've done this, who've been there, that you could take those responses and plug it into your little decision making spreadsheet and still make decisions that are informed, that are conscious, and then I align with who you are and what you're trying to achieve.
Right. I love that. That's amazing. I think this last part in particular is going to be super helpful for people who are, faced with that often where there's a lot of ideas flowing. Perhaps there's some distractions popping up, and really knowing yourself and being clear on your vision and how it is that you want to get there. I love what you said about the ease and flow, though. I really do think that's an important point because oftentimes we really do tend to make things difficult, and we think that's just how it has to be. And I couldn't disagree more now that I'm at this point in my life where it's like, that feels really hard. And to me, that's a sign. Like, I take that as a really big sign. It's like, that's really hard. And I don't mean that I don't want to work hard. Like, that has nothing to do with it, really, although I really don't. But I don't want it to feel that way, that's for sure. But it's like, how do you get to that place where now you're like, okay, why would it need to be so hard? You're trying to achieve something. I think it should open up for you. As long as you are open to it, the opportunities and everything will start to be there. But most of the time, we're not aligned. Like you said, we are not aligned with the outcome that we want. We are allowing, thoughts to hinder us. We're allowing fear. We're allowing all of those things. And I think that's what makes it really hard, right? That's oftentimes what makes things hard. Or we're going down the path where we keep hitting all these roadblocks, but we never ask ourselves why. So to me, those roadblocks are clear signs. They're clear signs of like, this doesn't feel like the right path because it's not flowing, right? You keep hitting these blocks. Well, it's like water, right? Water knows how to flow around them, and it's not all of a sudden stopped and having feelings about it. It doesn't have feelings about the
Mm.
boulder that's in its way. It just goes around it, and you can choose to go around it, right? But I think we give those blocks a lot of meaning, but not always the meaning that I think is there for us. Is like really assessing, okay, why is this happening? Is this happening because it's trying to show me something? Oftentimes it is trying to show us something, or it because I don't necessarily always believe in the test, right? Oh, it's just testing me, you know? I think it's more showing you something in yourself that we can then shift and allow it to keep being in ease and flow. So I really love that. Thank you for bringing that up. And just to wrap things up for people here, I really love, what you do in your work, and I know that you work with major companies, but and for people who are watching this and have organizations that feel they could really be helped by this kind of messaging, just stay tuned for future things. I really do want to circle back with you in a bit and have more of a conversation too, because I think this is really powerful for people. But if you are feeling like, you want to know more, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to be dropping some links below where you can reach Ivana on her social media, or wherever else she has. So if you are in fact part of a corporation that can use her help, then I'll make sure there's a link below this video to achieve that. Feel free to like and subscribe. I'm always talking to amazing people like Ivana, where we have these kinds of conversations that really open up your mind. And I think that's really important for everyone. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I feel like we've got some insider information here that's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. What a pleasure. I really feel like there is an opportunity to bring more feminine side into those corporate environments that tend to be really mechanical. And there is so much about execution and taking actions and looking good and showing the progress and looking at the outside
Mhm.
environment and what's happening. And so there's an opportunity to bring the other side, which is really how can we bring ideas in an effortless way? How can we create alignment with decision makers before we jump into execution? How can we talk about this uncomfortable conversations? So that's really what we're trying to bring, mixing the feminine and masculine side and showing that companies that there is a better way and maybe there is even the easier way to
Right.
make things
And
happen.
at the root of all that, right, is how is this going to benefit the environment, the community, the business itself, the people who work there? Like, oftentimes, we sort of forget about that outcome is like, how is this actually going to impact the world in a positive way or not a positive way, right? And knowing that we have a part in that. We have a big part in that. How is this going to provide value for someone? Or what is someone else going to get out of this? How is this going to support people or whatever it is? I think getting in touch too with that underlying, because that really does end up being the why. I think we're all here as, human beings who want good things for other people, and we want our businesses and our companies to feel good. We want to know that we're doing something that's positive, right? And if in fact we aren't, how can we change that? How can we do something that actually feels good as a people, as a business, as a corporation, whatever it is, that will allow us to make a positive impact in
Yeah,
what?
I mean you are spot on. And in my workshops, when we do framing workshops, for example, for a project, when we get to the vision stage, I mean that's really when we want to be so creative. So we don't just take a piece of paper and write down the outcomes.
Mhm.
That's where we want to paint the picture. My clients often I invite them to bring art, have them to literally paint the
Right.
the the future stage,
Hmm.
get present with the impact they're gonna make not just as a company but also at that in individuals as as the moms as the fathers as the citizens of that live in a particular area if they're building something tangible and big.
Right.
So yeah, we want to really make people present with what they're doing, that everything they're doing actually creates an impact.
Yes. Yes. I think most people then, when they're attached to that and they know that they're doing something that's going to have a great impact that feels good, they just are excited. That's when work
Yeah.
becomes fun, right? That's when work feels good. And you're like, it doesn't, wow, I've been here for 8 hours. I could go to, I could keep doing
Yeah.
this because it just feels really good. And I think that's why we love what we do so much is because we bring that element. We know how to stay in that place of it feeling good. And when something doesn't feel that great, obviously there's contrast for reasons and there is some ebbs and flows, right? But for the most part, you're on this like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe I get to do this. Like, I can't believe right now it's a Tuesday, 11:30 for me, different time for you. And I could be in some building somewhere or whatever, but I'm in my home office. I get to have this conversation with you. I feel blessed. I feel totally grateful for that. And I hope everybody feels that way at some point in their work. That's my hope for people is that that work just feels like a part of living an amazing life, and being able to make some kind of impact. So I hope if you're hearing this, if you're inspired, keep following along. There's so much opportunity for you to experience this feeling that we are both feeling right now too.
Mhm.
And if you're feeling like, you're watching this and you're thinking, wow, that's great, but I don't know how to do, just keep following along. Check out some of the things that we have to offer. I really do feel like I do this because I want people to be inspired. I want people to think about how they can, you know, make different decisions to have the kind of life that they want to have. And it's totally possible for everyone. I really just want people to walk away knowing that ideas can come to life. Whatever it is that you're trying to achieve is totally possible for you. So thank you so much, Ivana, for being here. I can't, this is an amazing conversation. And I can't wait to share it with everyone. So check out our links below if you want to connect with Ivana, even just to say, please leave some comments below too if you want to just, let her know how powerful this conversation has been. I'd love to see that as well. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.
My pleasure, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye for now.